Imagine standing in a room full of familiar faces, friends, colleagues, your own husband, only to realize that everyone knows a secret, except you. The man you built your life with, the one you trusted without question, has been hiding something. And tonight, in front of everyone, the truth is about to explode. This is a story of betrayal, deception, and a woman who refused to be made a fool of. Stay with us as we unravel the shocking twists that changed everything. Where are you watching from today? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss a story that makes you question everything you thought you knew. For 12 years, Olivia had been the kind of wife people admired. She stood by her husband, Daniel, through every challenge, every promotion, every late night at the office. Their life seemed picture perfect. 2 grown kids, a comfortable home, and the kind of marriage that made others envious. But perfect marriages don't exist, do they? Lately, Olivia had felt something shift. It wasn't obvious, not at first. Daniel was still polite, still came home every night, still greeted her with a tired but familiar smile. Yet there were moments, small, fleeting moments, where she felt like a stranger in her own marriage. He had started dressing differently, paying extra attention to his appearance before work. He left the house earlier, came back later. His phone, once left carelessly on the counter, was now always in his pocket. And then there were the whispers at the office, the ones that never reached Olivia directly, but lingered just enough for her to notice. She told herself it was nothing. After all, wasn't this how marriages worked? People grew comfortable, routines changed, life went on. But deep down, something gnawed at her, a feeling she couldn't shake. Then came the invitation. Daniel's company was hosting its annual holiday party, a grand event where executives and employees mingled, celebrated, and let their guards down for one night. Olivia had never felt the need to attend before. She trusted Daniel. She had no interest in office small talk. But this time was different. This time she had a reason to go. Something told her she needed to see for herself. So with a calm smile and steady hands, Olivia picked out a dress, fixed her hair, and prepared for an evening that would change everything. She had no idea just how right her instincts were. The ballroom was elegant, filled with glittering chandeliers, soft music, and the hum of conversation. Olivia had attended a few of these office gatherings in the past, but tonight everything felt different. She wasn't here as Daniel's supportive wife. She was here as a woman searching for the truth. She walked in with confidence, her smile polite, but her eyes scanning the room. Daniel hadn't noticed her yet. He stood near the bar, laughing, a glass of whiskey in hand. His posture was relaxed, too relaxed, like a man who wasn't expecting to be watched. And then she saw her. The woman stood close, too close, her hand resting lightly on Daniel's arm as she whispered something in his ear. Olivia recognized her immediately. Sophia, his assistant. Younger, vibrant, with the kind of effortless charm that made people gravitate toward her. Olivia had met her once before, a brief introduction at a company event. She had been polite, professional, but now, seeing her like this, a pit formed in Olivia's stomach. Daniel turned slightly, finally locking eyes with Olivia across the room. For a split second, his expression changed. Surprise, then something else. Guilt. Fear. It passed so quickly that Olivia almost doubted it. Almost. He raised his glass, a forced smile on his lips. She returned it, stepping forward, closing the distance between them. Olivia, Daniel greeted, placing a hand on her waist as he leaned in to kiss her cheek. I didn't think you were coming. She noted the slight tension in his voice. He was good at masking it, but she knew him too well. I changed my mind, she said smoothly, her eyes flickering to Sophia. It's been a while since I met your colleagues. Sophia smiled, but there was something hesitant about it. "It's nice to see you again, Mrs. Parker." Mrs. Parker, formal, distant. But Olivia noticed the way her fingers tightened around her champagne glass, the way she quickly glanced at Daniel before looking away. Olivia had walked into this party hoping for reassurance. Instead, she had just found her first real clue. Olivia had mastered the art of staying composed. Years of social events, business dinners, and being the supportive wife had taught her how to smile, even when her instincts screamed at her. But tonight, that smile was starting to falter. Something was wrong. Daniel was acting like his usual charming self, introducing her to colleagues, making polite conversation. But Olivia knew him better than anyone. His hand on her waist wasn't reassuring. It was a distraction. His casual laughter wasn't relaxed. It was calculated. And every time Sophia spoke, he glanced at Olivia, as if checking for a reaction. She needed space. Excusing herself, Olivia made her way to the ladies' room, not because she needed to freshen up, but because she needed a moment to think. She wasn't the kind of woman who jumped to conclusions. She believed in trust, in loyalty. But tonight, for the first time in her marriage, she wasn't sure if she still believed in Daniel. As she stepped into the hallway leading to the restrooms, she slowed her pace. The air here was quieter, away from the loud chatter and clinking glasses. And then she heard it, a hushed voice just around the corner. She actually showed up. It was a woman, Sophia. Olivia froze, her heart pounding. A low chuckle followed. Daniel's. "I wasn't expecting her," he admitted. "But it's fine. Just act normal." Normal. Olivia pressed her back against the cool wall, her breath shallow. The conversation was just out of sight, but she didn't dare move. "She's watching us," Sophia said, her voice barely above a whisper. "She doesn't know anything," Daniel replied quickly. "She never questions me." A painful heat spread through Olivia's chest. Never questions him? Was that what he thought? That she was blind? That she wouldn't notice the late nights, the secrecy, the shift in their marriage? Sophia sighed. "I hate this, hiding." Daniel's voice softened, just a little longer. That was all Olivia needed to hear. The reality hit her like a wave. This wasn't just suspicion anymore. This was real. Her husband was having an affair, and he thought she was too naive to see it. She clenched her fists, willing herself to stay calm. She wouldn't confront them, not yet. If Daniel thought she was blind, she would let him believe it. Because now, the game had changed, and Olivia had every intention of playing it to the end. Olivia stood there for a moment, her body frozen, her mind racing. The words she had just heard echoed in her head. Just a little longer. A little longer for what? Until he finally left her? Until they stopped hiding? The thought made her stomach turn, but she didn't let it break her. She wouldn't storm into that hallway and confront them like a woman scorned. That would be too easy for Daniel. He would twist the story, turn it into some misunderstanding, make her feel like she was imagining things. Not this time. She straightened her dress, took a deep breath, and stepped back into the party, her expression carefully neutral. If Daniel thought she was clueless, she would let him keep thinking that. As she walked back toward the main event, she caught sight of him again. He was back at the bar, laughing with a group of colleagues, his arm resting casually on the counter. Sophia stood nearby, sipping her drink, her smile slightly forced. Olivia made her way to Daniel's side and gently placed a hand on his arm. He turned, momentarily startled. "There you are," he said with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Everything okay?" "Perfect," Olivia lied smoothly. "Just catching my breath. It's quite the party." Daniel nodded, but his attention flickered, just for a second, toward Sophia. It was subtle, barely noticeable, but Olivia saw it. She saw everything now. She picked up a glass of wine from a passing waiter and took a slow sip, her gaze sweeping over the crowd. The party was lively, people were relaxed, no one paying much attention to them, no one except Olivia. She turned to Daniel, her voice warm, affectionate. "I was just telling one of the ladies how proud I am of you." Daniel raised an eyebrow. "Oh?" She nodded, setting her glass down. "Of course. You've worked so hard this year. All those late nights at the office, early mornings, the extra effort." She smiled, tilting her head slightly. "It must be exhausting." Daniel chuckled, but there was a stiffness in his posture now. "Yeah, well, you know how it is, a lot of responsibilities." "Yes," Olivia said, her voice light but her meaning sharp. "And I imagine having such a dedicated assistant helps." Sophia's grip on her champagne glass tightened ever so slightly. Daniel let out a short, uneasy laugh. "Yeah, of course. The whole team has been great." Olivia leaned in just a little. "Especially Sophia, right?" Silence. For the first time that night, Daniel looked genuinely uncomfortable. Sophia shifted beside him, her eyes darting to the floor. Olivia held her smile, pretending not to notice. "Oh, I think I see your boss over there. You should introduce me." She looped her arm through Daniel's before he could protest and led him away, her grip firm. He had no idea that his wife had just declared war. Olivia could feel the tension in Daniel's arm as she led him through the crowd, but she pretended not to notice. She smiled, greeted his colleagues, played the part of the devoted wife. But beneath that composed exterior, her mind was spinning. She wasn't going to accuse him outright. Not yet. She needed to see how deep his lies ran. She needed to hear them from his own mouth. As they reached Daniel's boss, a heavy-set man with a booming voice, Olivia kept her grip light on her husband's arm. "It's so nice to finally meet you," she said warmly. "Daniel always talks about how much he enjoys working for you." The boss chuckled, clapping Daniel on the back. "We're lucky to have him. Hardest worker in the company, though I imagine all those late nights must be tough on you." Olivia kept her expression neutral, but her stomach twisted. Late nights. Again. She let out a soft laugh, shaking her head. "Oh, I understand. He's been so busy. Some nights I barely see him before he's off to work again in the morning." Daniel tensed beside her. She could feel it. His boss nodded. "That's dedication for you. Always the last one to leave." "Well," he grinned, glancing over his shoulder, "except for Sophia, of course." A pause. Olivia's heart pounded, but she didn't let it show. "Sophia?" she asked lightly. "Oh yes, I hear she's very committed to her work." Daniel's boss chuckled. "You have no idea. Those two—" He motioned to Daniel, completely unaware of the storm brewing inside Olivia. "Always burning the midnight oil. I don't know how they do it." Olivia smiled, pretending to laugh along. She could feel Daniel trying to step away, desperate to change the subject, but she wasn't done yet. She turned to her husband. "Midnight oil, huh? You never mentioned that." Daniel's jaw tightened just slightly before he let out an easy laugh. "Oh, you know how it is. We get caught up in projects, and time slips away." Sophia appeared in the corner of Olivia's vision, lingering near the bar. She wasn't looking their way, but Olivia could tell she was listening. Olivia tilted her head, pretending to consider his words. That's funny," she said with a soft chuckle. "Because I was just talking to your secretary the other day, and she said you've been leaving before 7 most nights." Silence. Daniel blinked, just for a second. A hesitation, a flicker of panic. It was all Olivia needed. "Oh," she continued, feigning innocence. Maybe she was mistaken. Daniel recovered quickly. Yeah, must be. Some nights are later, some aren't. You know how it is." Olivia nodded slowly, watching him. He was a good liar, but not good enough. She turned back to his boss, smiling. "Well, I won't keep you from the party. It was so nice to chat." As they walked away, Olivia felt Daniel exhale, relieved that the moment had passed. But she wasn't finished. She was just getting started. Olivia felt the weight of the conversation settle over her like a heavy cloak. She had given Daniel a chance to tell the truth, a small window to admit something, anything. But instead, he had done what he always did, lied. She walked beside him, sipping her wine, her face calm. If Daniel thought she was going to explode in the middle of the party, he was mistaken. She wouldn't give him that kind of warning. No, she wanted him to feel safe, to believe he was still in control. Because once a man stops being careful, he makes mistakes. And Olivia was waiting for exactly that. "Everything okay?" Daniel asked, forcing a casual tone. "Of course," she answered sweetly. "Just enjoying the night. It's been a while since we've been out together, hasn't it?" Daniel nodded, but she noticed how he kept glancing around, as if he was checking on someone, or waiting for something. Sophia was across the room, pretending to be absorbed in a conversation with another group. But Olivia had seen the way her face had paled earlier, the way her fingers trembled slightly around her champagne glass when she spoke to Daniel's boss. Guilt had a way of making people nervous. Still, Olivia didn't approach her. She didn't need to, not yet. Instead, she turned her focus back to her husband. "You know," she mused, swirling the wine in her glass, "I was thinking about all those late nights at the office." Daniel stiffened. Barely, but enough. She continued, her tone light, almost playful. "It must be exhausting, staying that late and still waking up early every morning." Daniel exhaled a small laugh, shaking his head. "Yeah, it's been a rough few months." "Really?" Olivia raised an eyebrow. "Because I checked our security system before coming here. You know, the one that logs when the front door opens and closes." Daniel's grip on his drink tightened. "Strange thing, though," she continued, tilting her head. "There weren't many late entries. In fact, most nights you were home before 9. Daniel blinked. His face remained neutral, but Olivia could almost hear his brain scrambling for an excuse. "Oh," he said after a pause, "I must have forgotten to log out when I left work. Maybe I was at the gym." Olivia smiled. "The gym?" "Yeah," he nodded quickly. "I started going in the evenings sometimes, just to clear my head." She let the lie hang between them, giving him time to think it had worked. Then she leaned in slightly, dropping her voice. "Which gym?" The question hit him like a slap. She saw it in the way his breath caught, in the half-second too long that it took for him to answer. "The usual one," he said, too quickly. "You know, the one near the office." Olivia nodded slowly, tucking that piece of information away for later. She had never seen a gym bag in his car. Never smelled sweat or cologne like he used to when he really did work out. Daniel was unraveling, thread by thread, and Olivia was going to pull until he had nothing left. Olivia let the silence between them stretch, watching Daniel out of the corner of her eye. He was trying to act normal, but she could feel his tension, see the way his jaw tightened every time she spoke. Lies had a way of piling up, and Olivia was stacking them carefully, waiting for the one that would send everything tumbling down. She glanced across the room. Sophia was still there, but she wasn't mingling anymore. She was distracted, stealing glances at Daniel, looking uneasy. Olivia could see it now. Sophia wasn't just worried about getting caught. She was waiting for a signal. From him. And that's when Olivia realized something. Daniel and Sophia hadn't spoken since she had joined the party. Not once. No eye contact, no casual nods, no stolen moments. It was too much effort, too forced. They were avoiding each other, because they knew she was watching. She turned to Daniel, letting the smallest smirk cross her lips. "You know, I think I'll check out that gym of yours. His head snapped toward her. What? The one near your office, she said smoothly. I could use a new routine. She took a sip of her wine, pretending not to notice the way his fingers curled tightly around his glass. Maybe we could go together sometime. Daniel let out a forced chuckle. It's not really your type of place, Liv. Olivia raised an eyebrow. Oh? What type of place is it? He hesitated just for a second, another crack in his carefully built facade. You know, he shrugged, just a regular gym, not a lot of classes, more weights and stuff. She smiled. And yet you never seem sore. No muscle aches, no extra protein shakes at home. You must be taking it easy. Daniel exhaled sharply, setting his drink down with a little too much force. Are we really talking about this right now? Olivia leaned in slightly, lowering her voice. Why? Is there something else you'd rather talk about? His lips parted, but no words came. She could see it in his eyes. He knew she was onto him, and now he was starting to panic. Daniel grabbed his drink again, taking a longer sip this time. Olivia saw the tension in his throat as he swallowed. He was rattled, but trying desperately to hold his ground. She decided to push him a little further. Speaking of the gym, she said, tilting her head slightly, I should ask Sophia which one she goes to. She seems really fit. Maybe she has some recommendations. Daniel stiffened. It was subtle, just a quick shift in his posture, a flicker of something in his eyes. But Olivia caught it. She had spent years watching this man, knowing every micro-expression, every nervous tick. And this was fear. I don't think she works out much, Daniel said quickly. Oh, Olivia raised an eyebrow. You spend so much time together at work. I assumed you'd know. I mean, we don't talk about that stuff, he said, forcing a laugh. She's just my assistant, Olivia. Just his assistant. Olivia let the words linger in the air, pretending to consider them. Then she took her phone out of her clutch and unlocked it. You know what? I'll just ask her myself. Daniel's face dropped. What? She smiled. It's been a while since we talked. I should say hello. Before he could stop her, Olivia turned and started walking towards Sophia. She didn't rush. She moved slowly, deliberately, letting Daniel feel every agonizing second of it. She could hear his footsteps behind her, quickening. She reached Sophia just as the younger woman turned, her face instantly masking itself with a polite smile. But Olivia wasn't fooled. Sophia's eyes darted to Daniel over Olivia's shoulder, looking for direction. She was nervous. Good. Olivia, Sophia greeted, her voice just a bit too high-pitched. It's great to see you again. Olivia smiled warmly. Oh, you too, dear. She placed a light hand on Sophia's arm, watching her closely. I was just telling Daniel how much I admire your discipline. He said you don't work out much, but you look amazing. Sophia blinked, caught off guard. Oh, She hesitated, and there it was, the first real slip. Daniel had said one thing. Sophia's reaction said something else. Before Sophia could recover, Olivia continued, her tone gentle but laced with something sharper. Or maybe you two don't talk about those things. The silence between them stretched. Daniel arrived at Olivia's side, clearing his throat. Olivia, maybe we should— Oh, don't be silly, Olivia cut him off smoothly. We're all friends here, aren't we? Sophia's hand tightened around her champagne glass. Daniel looked away. And Olivia? She just smiled. She had them. Sophia's fingers twitched slightly around her champagne glass. She was trying to stay composed, but Olivia could see the cracks forming. Daniel, standing stiffly beside her, was no better. His usual confidence was gone, replaced by a nervous energy he was struggling to hide. Olivia let the silence linger just a moment longer before tilting her head. "Oh dear, did I say something wrong?" Sophia forced a quick laugh. "No, not at all. I just wasn't expecting to talk about the gym, that's all." Olivia nodded slowly, pretending to buy the excuse. Then she turned to Daniel, watching him carefully. "Funny, I thought you two didn't talk about that sort of thing." Daniel's jaw clenched. "We don't." Sophia gave him a sharp look. It was fleeting, but Olivia caught it. A silent message passing between them, one that said, "Stick to the story." How long had they been covering for each other? Olivia sighed dramatically, taking another sip of her wine. "Well, that's a shame. I was hoping to start a new routine. Maybe I'll check out that gym near your office. What's it called again?" Daniel hesitated. Sophia's grip tightened around her glass. Neither of them spoke. That was all Olivia needed. She smiled, setting her drink down on the table beside her. "Oh, never mind. I'll just check Daniel's location history. That should tell me where he's been after work." Daniel coughed, nearly choking on his drink. "Liv, come on. You don't actually think—" Olivia held up a hand. "Oh, don't worry. I'm sure there's nothing to find. Right?" Sophia's face drained of color. Daniel let out a forced laugh, shaking his head. "Olivia, this is ridiculous." She leaned in slightly, dropping her voice so only the two of them could hear. "No, Daniel. What's ridiculous is you standing here, looking me in the eyes, and still thinking I don't see through you." For the first time that night, Daniel looked genuinely afraid. Sophia opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. Olivia straightened, her composure never wavering. "I think I need some air." She turned to walk away, leaving them standing there, frozen. But as she did, she heard Daniel mutter something under his breath, something he thought she wouldn't catch. "She's onto us." Olivia didn't stop walking. She had just won her first battle. Now, it was time to win the war. Olivia stepped out onto the balcony, the cool night air hitting her skin like a much-needed breath of reality. Her heart was pounding, but not from pain. No, that stage had passed. Now it was something sharper, a sense of control, of strategy. Daniel thought she was onto them? Good. Let him think that. Let him squirm. But knowing wasn't enough. She needed proof, undeniable, irrefutable proof that would leave him with no room to lie. She pulled out her phone and scrolled through her settings, tapping into their shared family location tracker. A feature Daniel had conveniently forgotten existed. A list of timestamps and addresses popped up, and there it was. Several nights over the past few months, Daniel's location history showed him at an unfamiliar address. Not the office, not the gym. A small boutique hotel just 15 minutes from their home. Olivia stared at the screen, her thumb hovering over the address. She could feel the weight of the truth settling over her, but instead of breaking her, it only solidified her next move. She took a deep breath and sent the address to her friend, Emily, with a simple message. "Need you to check something for me." Emily, a woman who took betrayal as seriously as Olivia did, responded almost instantly. "On it. Give me an hour." Olivia slipped her phone back into her clutch, smoothing down her dress. She wasn't going to ruin this night. Not yet. No, she would play the role of the unsuspecting wife just a little longer. Let Daniel and Sophia think they were still safe. Let them think they had the upper hand. Because by the time this night was over, Olivia wouldn't just know the truth. She'd make sure the whole world knew it too. Olivia re-entered the party with the same poise she had walked in with. No anger, no tears, just quiet calculation. She spotted Daniel across the room, his back to her, speaking with a few colleagues. Sophia wasn't far, standing stiffly by the bar, pretending to listen to a conversation she clearly wasn't invested in. They were nervous, and they should be. Her phone vibrated in her clutch. She slipped it out, heart steady, eyes scanning the screen. Emily had sent a message. Room 214. Check the hotel's system. He's booked it multiple times under a fake name. I have photos of the reservation records. You were right. Olivia's stomach twisted, but not in shock. She had expected this. Now she had proof. Then another message. And guess who just walked in? Your dear husband's assistant. Checked in with a keycard already in hand. Olivia exhaled slowly, closing her eyes for a brief moment. It was one thing to suspect, another to know. But seeing it written out like that, undeniable and cold, turned something inside her. She opened her eyes, locked her phone, and slipped it back into her clutch. She could walk over to Daniel right now, throw the proof in his face, humiliate him in front of everyone. But no, that would be too easy, too predictable. Instead, Olivia took a different path. She walked over to Sophia. The assistant's eyes flickered with panic the moment she saw Olivia approaching. Her fingers tightened around her glass, her body tensed like a deer caught in headlights. Olivia smiled, not a warm, friendly smile, but the kind of smile that carried quiet destruction. Sophia, she said smoothly, tilting her head. Can I borrow you for a moment? Sophia swallowed, glancing toward Daniel. He hadn't noticed them yet. Of course. Olivia leaned in just slightly, lowering her voice. Privately. Sophia's face drained of color. She hesitated for just a moment too long before nodding. Okay. Olivia led her toward the quiet hallway near the entrance. The air between them was thick with unspoken words. Sophia's hands fidgeted at her sides, her breath unsteady, and then Olivia turned, pulled out her phone, and held it up. Sophia's eyes darted to the screen, and the moment she saw the messages, her entire body stiffened. Olivia watched as the truth finally settled on the younger woman's face. I know everything, Olivia whispered. So, before we go any further, tell me, do you want to be the one who confesses, or should I do it for you? Sophia opened her mouth, but no words came out. She had just realized something. She wasn't in control anymore. Sophia's breathing grew uneven. Her fingers twitched at her sides, and her eyes darted back toward the ballroom as if searching for an escape. But there wasn't one. Not this time. Olivia watched her with the patience of a woman who had already won. She wasn't here to beg for an explanation. She wasn't here to cry. She was here to watch Sophia break. Sophia finally whispered, her voice trembling. It's not what you think. Olivia let out a soft chuckle, shaking her head. Oh, sweetheart, that's the wrong thing to say. She turned the phone slightly, letting Sophia take in the messages again. Every reservation, every detail, every piece of undeniable proof. Sophia's lips parted, but no words came out. Olivia stepped closer, her voice as calm as ever. You were just at that hotel, weren't you? Sophia swallowed hard, her skin pale. Room 214, Olivia continued, letting the number settle between them like a death sentence. Checked in with his keycard. Sophia flinched. Silence. And then, finally, the dam cracked. Tears welled up in Sophia's eyes. I never wanted to hurt you, she whispered. It just happened. Olivia let out a slow breath, as if considering her words. Then she smiled. Well, isn't that convenient? Sophia shook her head quickly, her hands shaking. Daniel, he told me you two weren't happy anymore, that you barely talked. He said he was going to leave. Olivia raised a hand, silencing her. Oh, Sophia. Her voice was smooth, unwavering. Let me tell you something about my husband. Sophia blinked, waiting. Olivia's eyes hardened. Daniel is a coward. Sophia's breath hitched. If he was going to leave me, he would have, Olivia continued, but he didn't, because men like him, They don't leave, they lie, they take, and when they get caught, they blame women like you. Sophia looked down, shame washing over her. Olivia took another step forward. You have two choices, she whispered. You own up to what you've done, right now, in front of everyone, or I do it for you. Sophia's breath came in shaky bursts. Her eyes flickered with fear, with indecision. Then, as if on cue, Olivia heard his voice. Olivia? She turned. Daniel stood at the edge of the hallway, his face tense, eyes darting between them. Sophia looked like she was going to be sick. And Olivia? She smiled. The moment had finally arrived. Daniel stood frozen, his face a carefully controlled mask, but Olivia saw the panic behind his eyes. He wasn't sure how much she knew, not yet. She turned fully toward him, her expression calm, controlled. Daniel, she greeted, tilting her head slightly. We were just talking. Sophia was shaking now, her eyes bouncing between them. Daniel must have sensed the shift in power because he took a slow step forward, his voice low, measured. Olivia, can we talk alone? She let out a soft laugh. Oh, Daniel, you've had plenty of alone time, haven't you? A murmur of voices spilled in from the ballroom. People were nearby, close enough to hear, exactly as Olivia wanted. She pulled out her phone again, unlocking it with a flick of her finger. I was just showing Sophia something interesting, she continued, lifting the screen between them. Do you want to see? Daniel's jaw clenched. She turned the phone toward him, letting him take in the evidence, the hotel reservations, the time-stamped check-ins, the location records, every single lieutenant. His face paled. Sophia let out a quiet sob beside him. I didn't mean... Not now, Daniel snapped at her, his mask finally cracking. But Olivia wasn't done. She took a small step forward, lowering her voice to a whisper only he could hear. You know what hurts the most, Daniel? She said, her voice steady. Not that you cheated, not that you humiliated me, but that you thought I was stupid enough to never find out. Daniel opened his mouth. But before he could speak, Olivia turned, loud enough for everyone nearby to hear. Did you tell her the same thing you told the others? She asked, her voice sharp, unwavering. That you were going to leave me? That we were over? A hush fell over the crowd. Daniel's face drained of color. People were watching, listening. The conversation was no longer private. Olivia didn't stop. She wouldn't stop. I gave you every chance to be honest, Daniel, she continued, her voice unwavering. But instead you lied, over and over again, to me, to her, to everyone. Daniel swallowed hard, eyes flickering around the room. People were staring, his colleagues, his boss, his so-called friends. He had nowhere to run. Then Olivia turned to Sophia, her voice softer but no less powerful. You deserve better than being someone's secret. Sophia flinched, her eyes red-rimmed, guilt-ridden. But Olivia wasn't saying it for her sake. She was saying it because it was the final knife to Daniel's carefully constructed illusion. A tense silence followed. Then Olivia exhaled, straightened her shoulders, and removed her wedding ring. Daniel's breath caught. She placed it neatly on the nearby cocktail table, where everyone could see it. A statement, a declaration, a full stop to a story that had dragged on too long. Then, without another word, she turned and walked away. And this time, Daniel didn't try to stop her. Olivia stepped out of the ballroom and into the crisp night air, the sounds of the party fading behind her. But she didn't feel cold. She felt something else, lighter, stronger, free. For years, she had been the devoted wife, the woman who supported her husband's ambitions, who believed in their marriage, even when the signs of betrayal had been there all along. But tonight, she had rewritten the story. Her phone buzzed in her hand, a message from Emily. Saw what happened. Proud of you. Drinks on me tomorrow?" Olivia smiled. She had spent so much time wrapped up in Daniel's world, in his deception, that she had forgotten something important. She had a life outside of him, and it wasn't over. It was just beginning. She glanced down at her left hand, now bare. 12 years of marriage, of memories, of loyalty. And yet, all it had taken was one night, one truth, to undo it all. But Olivia didn't feel sad. She felt powerful. Daniel would face his own reckoning. His colleagues had heard everything. His boss had been watching. His carefully crafted image, the hard-working, devoted executive, was in ruins. And Sophia, she was left with nothing but regret. Olivia didn't need revenge. She had something better, her dignity, her strength, her future. She took a deep breath, lifted her chin, and walked toward her car. She wasn't just leaving the party, she was leaving the past behind. And this time, she was walking away on her own terms.